Hello, my name is Megan Bell, and this video will discuss various publishing models to consider as you are evaluating and selecting journals to publish in. This video will make you aware or discuss three journal publishing models. I will define what is open access publishing. I'll identify three sources of open access journals. Well, I'll identify several sources of open access journals and give you a little more information on about two of them. And I will go over some advantages and disadvantages of open access journals. So three publishing models would be, one is open access. So that's when the contents of the journal are made available under Creative Commons, and I will give you a little more information on that. And so basically what it means is so in the traditional model, you would submit your article free. It wouldn't cost you anything as the author, but people would need to pay in order to read what you submitted. This publishing model sort of reverses that. So as the author, you may have to pay up front to have your article published, but the public will be able to read it for free. So and we'll discuss more about the advantages and disadvantages of that. One thing to be aware of is that although you are paying, you're not paying them to publish your article. You would only pay after your article has been accepted. So after your article has gone through the peer review process, so other people in your field have read the article and they have validated, they've verified your references, they've verified that your research methodology and everything you did makes sense. After they've done all that, then you would pay to have the article published. In the traditional model, that's when your article still undergoes the peer review process, you submit it, and if it's accepted, then as the author, you don't pay anything, but the people who want to read it have to pay in order to access your information. Also, there's a difference in the amount of author rights you keep or give to the publisher. So in open access, you keep more of your rights versus in a subscription, you're giving the publisher more of your rights. So those are some things to think about. The hybrid model is kind of a mixture of both. So one example of that would be that it could be that maybe the journal, they do both. So they do open access and they do subscription. So for example, the Journal of Genetic Counseling is a hybrid journal. So it is a subscription journal, and you can, as the author, you can choose to either submit your manuscript open access, which means that you don't have to pay up front, but people can access it free, or you can choose to use the traditional model where if your article is accepted, you don't pay anything, but people would need to have a subscription in order to access your manuscript. So those are some things to think about. Another way they may sometimes do the hybrid model is that maybe you submit your manuscript to them, and then you don't have to pay anything, but there'll be a 1-year embargo on your manuscript. So for 1 year, you cannot make it freely available. So maybe for the first year, people would have to have money to pay to access the article that you submitted. But then after that year, you can publish it to a place like PubMed Central, and I'm going to get more into that in a few minutes. And so then people can freely access your journal. So there are different models that they do with the hybrid publishing. And so you would read the author guidelines and find out what type of publishing model is this journal using. So what is open access? I sort of just went over it, but this is a general overview where it's just a digital model. It is online. When it says free of charge, it's free of charge for the public, not for you, but for the public, not for the author, for the public. So, but some publishers, there isn't a charge for you as the author. So that's why, again, you have to read the author guidelines and find out what's going on. It's free of most copyright restrictions. So again, as I said, you often get to keep more of your author rights. And so there is evidence to support that when you use open access model, people can access the information. They can access your information faster. So they're able to discover your information faster. So they don't have these paywalls that's kind of getting in the way between them and them being able to access your information or the information you found when you did your research. And so that could be for the public good, because hopefully they take whatever you learned and they apply it to their lives or their practice. So that can help things. Here's a more detailed definition. One thing I'd just like to point out is that there is a fee charged for the work, again, as I said before. And I do want to emphasize that the fee is charged after peer review and acceptance of your work. So you don't pay the fee before, you don't pay the fee up front, you pay the fee after they have done the peer review process. Creative Commons. So I've mentioned this before. In the Journal of Genetic Counseling, they list multiple Creative Commons licenses that are there, and I'm going to go there and kind of point it out again. But it just means that you are retaining more of your rights, and you are saying that this work is freely available for other people to access. So here are the Creative Commons licenses that's listed under author licensing, and then here they list the licenses that they offer. And so this first one right here. So the first one, that means that the work is freely available, but they have to give you credit as the creator, and that's it. The next one means that they have to give you credit as the creator of the original creator of it, but they cannot use it to make money. They can't make money off of what you did, and that's it. And then the third one means that they have to give you credit for it. They can't use it to make money, and they can't translate it to any other languages. Now, no derivatives could mean other things, but I'm just giving you an example that, as in writing an article, one thing that no derivatives would mean is that they can't translate it into multiple languages. So here are some sources for open access journals. The directory of open access journals, that's a good place to look if you just want a list of open access journals. Because they have a criteria. In order for a journal to be included there's a criteria that they have to meet. So, however, PubMed Central is another place you can look for open access journals, but everything in PubMed Central may not necessarily be a reputable source. So, and the reason, now some things, maybe most things in PubMed Central are, but there are some things that may not be. And the reason is that because of NIH funding, authors are required, if they received funding, they have to make it publicly available. So if that author chose a poor quality journal to publish in, they still have to make that manuscript available in PubMed Central. So just because something is in PubMed Central does not mean it's a high quality journal. But there are ways to go into PubMed Central, and you can look at the description of the journal, and it will tell you whether well, it won't tell you whether it's a quality journal, but it will tell you why is that journal included in PubMed Central. And if you go to the link on the guide about predatory publishing, there are instructions on how to check PubMed Central to decide whether the journal that you're interested in is why it's included in PubMed Central, or how to evaluate whether it's a quality journal or not. Alright, so here are some advantages of open access journals. And some of this I've kind of gone over already. One thing I want to add, and we're going to talk about this in another video, but if something is cited in if something is published in an open access journal, it actually usually gets more citations than a subscription journal, and that's because people can probably access it. More people can access it. And there is a shifting business model where more businesses and more authors are preferring to publish in open access. Some disadvantages are cost. So, for example, In the Journal of Genetic Counseling, which is what we've been going over, it would cost you $3,000 to publish in that particular journal. So if you don't have that money, or if you didn't get funding and you have that money set aside, then you may not be able to publish using the open access model for that particular journal. And last, it could be sometimes there are some people who are taking advantage of the open access movement, and they're doing what's called predatory publishing. And let's see. So here's a description of author processing charge. So that spreadsheet I just showed you, that's an author processing charge. So the author processing charge for this particular journal is $3,000. So predatory publishing, I mentioned that when the author processing charge, they're supposed to charge you that after they do the peer review. However, some people, they charge you that money and they never do the peer review. So those are things to be aware of. And again, there's a link on the guide if you want more information on predatory publishing and how to evaluate a journal to make sure it's not predatory. All right, as always, if you have any questions, feel free to contact me.